In today's video, we're going to go through conducting a refund within True when we have a situation where we've taken a 50% down payment on a particular job record within the system. So, one thing that fundamentally we need to understand, whether we're syncing credits or syncing data to QuickBooks or we're using our resident True accounting system, using a down payment process through True is going to require us to select a unearned revenue account, as well as all of the other movements between AR, sales, and so forth. So it's important that fundamentally we need to understand that when we're in a situation where we've got a 50% down payment, but the job is essentially being canceled and we need to return those dollars to our customer, we need to take the job all the way to the finish line and then produce the records accordingly to refund the customer and reduce sales and get those dollars back out of unearned revenue and so forth. So let's go ahead and proceed onward here. Our very first stop is going to be the invoice tile. At this junction, we're simply going to create a final invoice to take those dollars out of unearned revenue and into earned revenue, and then we can conduct the subsequent credit memos and so forth to take care of all of our other conditions. It's very important with True. We need to understand that anytime there's a down payment invoice, we can't create credits and reduce dollars in that current condition. We need to create final invoices, apply credits, create additional credits, and so forth. So let's go ahead and move forward. We've got our 50% down payment. The job is completely uninvoiced, and now we are simply going to go ahead and produce a final invoice. We know that the system is smart enough to see our original down payment, and True is automatically going to apply that down payment with the creation of our final invoice. Once I select done here, we can see right directly in the payment section, here's our down payment. Currently, we've got some unapproved statuses. Of course, we need to always approve these records for either journal entry creation in True Accounting or approving for sync for QuickBooks. But let's go ahead and simply conduct a refund here, at least for the portion that we know, we need to owe our customer. So let's go ahead and conduct that now. Simply using the plus icon here, we're going to select a refund. True is going to see, hey, there was a receipt for a down payment for $530. Then that's going to be the area that we're going to need to select to make sure that those dollars get returned to our customer. Now, when we're creating this transaction, fundamental understanding here as well, True is creating the disbursement transaction. These are the dollars that are going back to our customer. And we need to be careful here whenever we're creating disbursements. We need to, number one, select the method of payment. Today, I'm going to keep it easy and select cash. But, additionally, when we create those disbursements, unlike receipts where we want those dollars to migrate to a undeposited funds account, the bank account we do need to select. In this case, I'm going to use the check 12. That's my resident checking account here in our demo copy. And moving forward, the dollar amount is already selected for us in this regard. So here's our disbursement transaction for this particular invoice for this dollar amount going back to our customer. I'm going to go ahead and select done here. So two things happened. First, True created the disbursement, the dollars going back to the customer. True also created a credit memo for the portion of the invoices or invoice that the dollar amount was returned to the customer. So whenever we create a refund, True is automatically going to create a portion of a credit or a credit in the matching amount of the refund that's going back to our customer. Now we know for this particular instance, this is a final invoice. We are realizing sales to the amount of $1,060. Our payment section kind of includes that as well. We've got our down payment invoice that's being applied. This is a credit that's going to reduce that down payment invoice, basically get ours to a net zero. And then the $530 of our down payment is not going back to our customer. But if we look at this from the job level view, we still only have, we've got a balance of $530, which we know, the customer doesn't owe us anything. We have invoiced this in full, but our credit amount is only $530. So we know that another credit needs to take place in order for the sell price to be completely absolved or completely, net zeroed out. So let's go ahead and conduct that final piece of the puzzle here. So if I go to view invoices, we know that the distinguishment or the difference between our two different invoices here, we've got the down payment invoice with the blue dot indicator and our final invoice here. Let's go ahead and pull up that final invoice. And in the item section, this is our ability where we can create extra credits or additional credits. In other videos, we'll go through how we simply just create a reduction to the sell price of a job using our credit system here. So very simply, from the item tab of the job, I'm going to select add a credit. We know that all we've got left is $530. By default, True is going to want to pull in the dollar amount for the line of the credit. In this case, we just need to produce that second credit of $530. Now, the reason field here, oftentimes we'll want to put, hey, the job is canceled or have some type of reason. And the RMA number, this is really going to be more or less applicable to vendor credits. We use a very similar system because both credits are essentially accomplishing the same thing. If we did have any kind of RMA number to issue to our customer, we certainly could fill that out at this time. So upon selecting OK, True's going to say, show us a success window that, in fact, a new credit's been created. Now, when we go to the payments section, it's very important that we use the refresh icon. If you notice, we're conducting all of these movements directly through the invoice module. So our ability to pull in that credit hasn't quite taken place yet. We need to use our refresh icon where True can then basically refresh the system and pull in that and allow us to select that newly created credit. Using the supply credit button, lo and behold, here's our newly created credit. We use that canceled job description. So we've got a real nice way to identify that this is the record that we want to actually apply to our final invoice. Upon selecting confirm here, we can see we've got a total, there's quite a bit of records here, but keep in mind, we're creating all of these records so we conduct all of the movements in our financials accordingly. We don't have to manually apply any credits. We don't need to adjust any sales figures. We simply allow True to create all of the source documents, and then we either create the journal entries or sync the records to QuickBooks. So one way we can kind of double check to make sure that we've done everything in its entirety and done it correctly would be to go flip to the job section. We know for a fact that, yes, we did take in a payment. There was a down payment invoice of 50%, but the job ended up being canceled. There was no services performed, no money, no money needed to be returned to the customer, and the job needed to be zero. The credit amount needs to be equivalent to that sell price. That's indicating to us that, we did have a sell price, or we actually did have a sale for $1,060. But that net credit amount has basically removed that sale out of the books. We see no paid or balance figure here. We know that paid column should be zero because we created that disbursement transaction during that refund process. The uninvoiced amount, of course, should always be that $0 amount. In order for us to have gotten as far as we did, we needed to create a final invoice and conduct all of the refund and credit processes on that final invoice. If there's any other questions, please feel free to reach out, support@constructtrue.com.